no better place than to start at the beginning. I'm going to show you emails, what contracts look like, who to talk to, who to email. When you see a ghost, you know who to call. But if you want your film distributed, that's not always clear. My film, Virtual JFK, is about what would have happened in Vietnam if JFK had not died in '63 and had he been re-elected in '64.
Republican warnings against appeasement have constricted the room that you may have to negotiate with the Russians. Will you discuss these points?
No, I'm going to attempt to see whether it's possible for us to reach an agreement in this matter which will not necessitate a war.
Every film, especially small homemade, handmade films of this sort, are going to require building this painstaking, start from scratch, figure out the distribution model that's currently operating, and then systematically go about seeding that model tree and water it as carefully as possible.
First of all, think about the different platforms of distribution in terms of this hierarchy. With theaters and festivals at the top, you want to exhaust that level first before moving on to DVD and television, which are actually sort of interchangeable. There's also a hierarchy with film festivals. And again, you want to exhaust the top before making your way down. At the film festivals, there'll be plenty of media, so take advantage of that. And essentially, you have all these peripheral and primary players converging, and you want to take advantage of that convergence.
The red carpet, eager photographers, the all-important fans, and of course the film stars. This year, Cate Blanchett, Faye Dunaway, and Eva Longoria. The list goes on.
So step one, get a website for your film. And make sure it's for not only public consumption, but also for other programmers. And the idea with publicity is not to create publicity just for the sake of creating publicity. You want to think about what makes your film unique. And in our case, we highlighted presidential decision-making, the relationship between president and media, because we have a lot of press conferences of Kennedy dealing with the media. We highlighted parallels between Vietnam and Iraq, even though we don't explicitly make those connections in the film. And we highlighted the contingent aspects of history.
Doc HD.
You want to think about television in terms of territories. You sell to one TV broadcaster per territory. You can't do two. So if you sell the rights to HBO, you can't then go to the History Channel, because that would constitute an affair. Normally, when you have a DVD deal, you hand over your educational rights and your retail rights to one distributor. And the problem with this is that if your distributor suddenly gets distracted by a new film, by a new project at the company, they sort of lose interest in your film. And even if you wanted to help promote it and do something about it, you can't, because you've given all the rights over. So Peter Broderick came up with this strategy that he calls hybrid distribution. It's basically the splitting of your DVD rights so that you still have some control over how your DVD performs.
Well, I've really put three on the table. One is sort of, let's call it guerrilla marketing, Maoist marketing. You can win from the margins. Your model, which is you've got to get to the choke points, the central nodes of power, get their attention, get them on board, put some money up front, not a lot, work, the fact that you are beginning filmmakers so you get good deals. And then Peter's model, which is more something, it's sort of a counter Hollywood model in some ways. If you're dealing with a political moment in history that deserves a wider audience than usual, and in some ways, newspaper critics perhaps are the least prepared to write a review.
We created a dissemination strategy to bring 13 Days into a variety of public fora where it could be discussed on a serious basis on the issues, as opposed to presenting a starred, glittering premiere and the like. So it took us to in New York, the Council on Foreign Relations, at Harvard, the famous Kennedy Forum. I think that shot of Sorensen and McNamara is from the Kennedy Forum. We had a screening at Congress by a standing committee on disarmament that Ed Markey chairs, Massachusetts Congress. We took it to Havana for a screening invited by Fidel Castro. All these remarkable screenings were painstakingly constructed by a kind of high-level motion picture diplomacy and public relations. The purpose was to inoculate the film from a similar kind of undermining critique that somebody could easily have come up with. We described this impulse to get the film out to appropriate audiences for purposes of wider, thoughtful discussion, having these components of a virtue aspect of film dissemination. That is, you want to contribute to public discussion about an issue of urgent, current importance. And secondly, you want to protect the film from damage from hostile criticism. So you're really trying to protect its commercial potential and interest. So it has this sort of dual function.